Have you ever felt not heard in your life or not understood by those that you love the most? And doesn't that hurt so much? Have you ever seen a little kid reach out to their mum? They don't just say mum once, they say mum, 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 mum. This shows us that it's a human need to be heard, and so it links so much to the name that we're going to speak about today. Allah's name as Samee, the all-hearing. Why is it that we're learning Allah's names? Is because to know Him is to love Him. How can we claim we love someone we don't know? And so the most beautiful way to know Allah is through His beautiful names. So each day of Ramadan we'll be exploring one name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in hopes of to know Him is to love Him. Because once we love Him, we'll start to show up differently in our life. We'll start to worship Him as though we can see Him. And ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tara, which is the highest level of Iman, the level of Ihsan. Bismillah, let's begin. Yunus alayhi salam was swallowed by a whale. And I just want you to think about how huge of a test that is. He wasn't just swallowed by a whale, he's in the depths of the ocean in the middle of the night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes that darkness upon darkness, darkness of the night, darkness of the whale, darkness of the ocean. It's a very hard test. If Yunus alayhi salam was to shout out, help, help, would anyone hear him? No. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would hear him. And that's exactly what he does. He says a beautiful dua.
فنادى في الظلمات أن لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين.
Such a beautiful dua where he says, there's no God but you, Ya Allah, verily I've been among the wrongdoers. It's such a beautiful dua to call upon Allah in terms of hardships. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to him and He saves him from the belly of the whale. What does that go to show? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-Samee, the all-hearing. He hears what we say, what we don't say. He hears our thinking, He hears our thoughts, He hears our emotions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so close that He hears all of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited by human faculties in order to hear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears everything. And that's so incredibly validating to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears what we feel, hears what we think, hears what we say. So validating to have such a kind Lord that listens and hears it all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala links this name with two names, the all-seeing and the all-knowing, Al-Alim, which is really beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, I hear everything, and I'm more knowledgeable about everything. So if you're going through something really difficult right now, maybe nobody understands what you're going through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as-Samee hears and sees all of that. He knows what you're experiencing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hearing is not limited to volume or distance. We can all be making dua right now and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears it all. Isn't that so beautiful? Nothing misses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know how when you call a friend, maybe she misses your call, maybe she's busy, maybe she's overwhelmed with responsibilities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited like the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited like the human being in any way or form. Which means that when we call upon Him, He hears. When we whisper to Allah, He hears. When we say something to Allah, even if our lips are not moving, He hears. So what does that go to show? Dua doesn't need to be a long explanation. It could just be you talking to Allah, or you sharing to Allah what you're feeling, or maybe whispering to Allah, or maybe there's a situation, a really hard situation, there's a lot of people around you, and you just quietly talk to Allah in your heart. He hears that. This beautiful name reminds us that when somebody says something hurtful to us, we know that Allah hears them. And that's so validating to know that. Like when somebody says something harsh or rude or difficult, you say, as-Samee, Ya Allah, I know you heard that. It's so validating, comforting to know that Allah, the Lord of the worlds, heard that. And the second point that we also must remember, if we claim that we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we know that He's watching us, what words are we using? Are we using foul words, horrible language? Are we harsh with our family and our friends? So let's elevate how we're speaking, because if we truly love Allah and we know He's watching us, then we're going to produce the best words because we know He's as-Samee and He hears the words we're saying. If you've loved today's name, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube and tell me what you love and resonating from today's name. Until tomorrow, Assalamu alaikum.
من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت وهو السميع العليم